I wanted to, I'm looking, it messes it up, but I'm not sure it's going up until it usually buzzes or something when its video is ready to go, but it's not on this little phone I've had for a while. Anyway, I wanted to respond to the lady about, she posed a question, very nice. She's a nice lady as far as I know. She's been on YouTube and nice to me. Where there's another one that's not, but anyway, one out of all of them's not bad, is it? Oh, I try to laugh. That's how I get through things. Anyway, I wanted to answer. It's easier to answer here. Uh, as you can tell, my ears, well, I don't know if you can or not, but I'm having a rough time with chemicals and where I'm living. And you have to get away from them is the problem and stop the mess. But anyway, that's being done to me. Uh, anyway, let me preface this. When April Fool Day of 80 is when I no longer had an apartment, when they almost killed me. I should have died. There's no way that I should have walked away from it. And you get into redoing but having to do videos that then you got to connect because it's an ongoing with my life. So I'll just get this segment here. My first son, I had the same obstetrician, GYN, in Atlanta as I had with him. And just prior to Scott being born, I changed hospitals. I went to the Baptist Hospital, which is a horror story. When they tried to kill my baby, and I won't go into it, and I now know why, because of who he is. He's the heir after me, not Elizabeth, none of that. That lineage is all fake and traitors. But anyway, I've said this about, I can't say it was no longer than 2 weeks prior, maybe not that long, that this doctor from Spain, very, oh my God, nice looking doctor. And remember, the Spanish are monarchy is cousins to me, and they did try to help back then. A lot was going on that would have been some years ago when my children were born, and they still were. But I think Juan Carlos, I can't remember now because I can remember thinking, what's this got to do with me? Because there was a doctor in Atlanta that was from Spain. And I remember I was at the grocery store, Big Apple, I think, Marietta, and a lady, a young girl, or older, but she's best I can remember her 20s, let's say. She walked up to me at the counter, meat counter. She told me she'd just come back, that her father, well, I knew his name when she said it, but she said they were trying to help me. Well, couldn't comprehend exactly what she was talking about other than the things that were going on in Atlanta. And I must have been doing the book then, I assume. I'm pretty sure I was. So I attributed it to the book and didn't know what she meant about going to Spain and all that. But anyway, so this would have been after the birth of my children. I remember that I can't remember his name. I did once. I remembered his name, but he's tall, good looking guy, man. Very handsome, my goodness. Very kind, but professional. That was the part that got me. He was very professional. Now, all with the birth of Mark and all up until now, Dr. Bateman had been the only doctor I'd seen. He hadn't had a partner or anything. And by the way, this doctor from Spain, I don't think ever came back there. Because between the time I saw him, he took my file and he took me in the room and checked me, and he said to me that I should go to he was going to make an appointment. I was supposed to go and have my blood typed and tested or something because it could jeopardize my baby that was going to be there in about a week or 2 weeks, Scott. He said, this should have been done with your first child, Mark. He said, it's like, I guess he was referring to blue babies. I'm not sure he used that word, but he said they might need a blood transfusion at birth. Or my second one, Scott. And he meant that about Mark. But the tests weren't done, and, as they should have been. And he was seemed very professional, but very, I don't mean upset in that word, but not happy, and the doctor's outside the room, that Bateman, that was my doctor with both babies, my sons. Okay, now then, just prior to me going to have my blood test done, so that if Scott needed blood transfusion, I went into labor. I went to the Catholic hospital. Wrong. It probably didn't matter where I went. But anyway, I went, and I remember they told me that the nun did, or whoever met me at the emergency door, oh, well, you're not ready to deliver. We'll have to just send you back. Well, they put me in there, and I can remember starting to hurt, and they told me Bateman was upstairs in delivery somewhere. So they were supposed to give me, well, I didn't want a spinal. I don't natural, I guess, or spinal. I didn't want to be gassed. I didn't know why that I was allergic to chemicals, but I'd been to dentists where the dentist had used, the gas, and it just killed me just about. So anyway, I didn't want to be put on the table and the gas mask put over me. Well, lo and behold, I didn't stay went into the emergency room, stayed back there till they prepped me or whatever I think went on, and suddenly I'm being whisked into the delivery room, and I'm begging for my gynecologist. They're telling me he's upstairs. Well, they put me on the table and they locked my arms down and they put the mask on me. And man, I was fighting the mask. And I guess anyway, I'm locked down. And I did see the man that, at least his body type, that delivered my baby. And he didn't look like Bateman. He didn't look like Dr. Bateman at all, my gynecologist. So I'll leave it there. I could see his outline, let me say that. I was screaming and trying to sit up, and then they knocked me down, and the mask and all this. So when they brought my baby to me and handed him to me, he looked like a 3-month-old baby. He had this mass hair that was black and not even, really. Excuse me, I told her this wasn't my baby, and I made some remark that I have a better looking baby at home, and it wasn't Scott. But I wasn't ready for this. I didn't put this together till later when I find out who I am, and I did know that Scott was taken. Well, we brought Scott home, put him in the room with us, and then Mark slept in the room with Miss Childers. She had come down for about a week. Well, I moved him in the room with us, with the two. And this is not Scott. Oh, the baby cried. I worried about. I feel for babies, but I said this wasn't my baby. My God, you don't have a baby coming out. Anyway, the baby would cry and scream every time you touched it, and I'd try to bathe it, and it would scream. I had a bassinet. Miss Childers would try to bathe it. And it was a horrifying story. I breastfed Mark, no problem. You bond and everything. This baby, oh my goodness, I love children, but this wasn't my baby. So now then, a month later, we moved to Knoxville, Tennessee, and ended up, it was pretty hard to keep the baby's food cool, the bottles and all that, to do it in a motel, but they moved it to the presidential suite, which wasn't all that great, but it wasn't bad. It was a Holiday Inn back then. And it's kind of weird the things that happened there. But anyway, I really have said this to my best ability, and people do. Some know, all of them know I'm not lying. My God, I couldn't make it up, for God's sake. Sit here in pain and tell it over these years, and right now I'm having, I think, what they call the syndrome in your hands, and I'm gonna have to stop because I'm waking up with both of them, just no feeling in it at night. Both my hands up into the arm on the left, so I'm gonna have to stop pretty soon using it so much, the video or anything. But anyway, I can't remember. It almost seems like that Scott was returned to me there. But then I remember we moved from there up to Donaldsonville, outside a suburb of Nashville, on Emory Drive. Yeah. And I remember being in the bedroom with the crib, and John had to work away. I didn't know he was FBI or CIA back then. I thought he was working for, and anyway, he was gone a lot. And I remember holding him up. Remember the spot? And now loving him because that was my baby. Cute little fella. And all the time I had this picture of this baby that had been handed to me. They had all this black hair that looked, it wasn't my baby. It looked like he weighed. It looked like he was 3 months old at least. Can you believe they handed me this baby? Well, poor baby. What happened to my baby? Then what happened to this one, for God's sake? So anyway, I remember John coming in and him taking Scott in his arms. But for some reason, Scott, I know my babies, he kind of like, he wasn't going to be controlled or something. He's just a little fella, so this must have been when he was, what, maybe two, okay, we left when we were a month, we were there. So I really can't pinpoint it. It seems like this was when he was brought back on Emory Drive. And from there on, he started walking, and then he got sick. He started walking at 7 months, and he got sick and had to learn to walk again. I used to feed them, and that was a happy time of my life. I'd put Mark. I can never forgive these hideous people that did this mess. I'd put Mark in the high chair, and then Scott, and I'd feed Mark Jr. food, Scott baby food, put on to Scott. He would just eat those yucky baby food eggs. But that was the happiest time of my life. So I didn't make my life like this. I've tried to get through it. And I think after putting all this time and effort to tell my story and the horror that people never paid for, I want to remind this person that has come back on and left her messages. And this has called me a liar. And the JFK, I couldn't prove this. Well, maybe it's going to be proven for me. But I've proven it. Any fool that, I'm going to go ahead and say it, that's gone over my videos and watched any of them knows I'm telling the truth. I could not concoct it. Or why would I sit here in all this pain? But I'm answering to her right at the moment. You're not trying to help me. You're countering and calling me a liar. So I've put this up for the lady that was nice and just simply asked the question about if I knew when he was kidnapped. I will say this: April Fool Day of '80, all the pictures I had were destroyed. I don't have them and I can't get them. They were destroyed. And that one would mean the baby they handed me at the hospital that was supposed to be Scott and wasn't. Uh, Everything was gone. They just destroyed everything I had, even to my brain almost. So, and by the way, I went to the hospital after that was done to me by Lois Pearson, trying to get the Kleenex, who I thought was a friend. Um, she's the one that did it. Told to do it, and it was all planned. So where am I going with that? Maybe I should just get off. Oh, I was listening to Forensic either yesterday or on HLN, and I had gone to the hospital. I had gone to stay with her a couple of nights um, after I came back from Texas and trying to go out there because John's sister, um, Laura Childers Klein, was supposed to let me stay with them for a week or two and help me get a job, and I would get the boys out there if I got a job. Well, I would check with her before I left. When I got out there at Mesquite outside Dallas, she told me not to come, that I was no longer welcome. I got back and my apartment had been taken illegally, and this is where I got the letter from the FBI, June the 23rd, 79. Moved up there from Moonraker down the street, Laurelwood Apartments. And the manager told me, and I wondered then why she told me about Patty Hearst, that her uncle was in charge of, he's FBI in charge of the Patty Hearst kidnapping. Well, the Hearst on the Atlanta Journal, God, I didn't know that I was taking stuff to the very people who were a part of all this. But anyway, when I got back, the manager totally knew it. This was planned. They had told me this, and I wondered why she's telling me that. Okay, she had allowed my ex-husband to sign a new lease, move my furniture over almost overnight. I wasn't gone but a couple of nights. Put the lease in his name with my security deposit. And then is when I had no key. They wouldn't give me a key. It wasn't my apartment anymore. Nobody was listening to me. And I ended up going at the end of the month. This was like the 12th of March of '80 or the 20th in that time span. I went to Lois Pearson's, and see, they had stuff on her. Her family were Phillips, or worked for the Phillips. Her sister was a nurse. So you got your ends to the Phillips, the Gonzalez, and the, what's the other names? And Phillips as in the Southern Belle I've been telling you about, the mess. LC and Boots, and isn't it strange how I know all these names? And I'm going through this hell, and somebody questions even how ridiculous. Anybody can go back and check the mess if they cared to. Now where'd I get to? Anyway, I went to her place, and that was a disaster. I had one of the doctors who I trusted actually call me there and asked me what I knew about the Gene Strokerman murder that happened at Piedmont Hospital. That's Larry